This story revolves around a loser who is not only weak, but also utterly broke. Bullies love picking on him, and the rich chick he's in love with hates him like nothing else. She literally despises him for being economically invisible. But all that changes one day when some unknown virus starts turning people into flesh-eating zombies. In no time, the whole world becomes a post-apocalyptic playground where you gotta survive on your own. It doesn't matter how much money you had, it's just paper in this desolated world. And, as luck would have it, that same chick, Yena, who used to love tearing our poor guy down, now desperately wants to stick around him, just to make sure she survives. But before jumping further into the story, let's rewind to the beginning for better context. It's a usual summer morning. Inside one of the apartment rooms lives our protagonist, Minjun. Looks like bro had a blast the night before playing games, with his computer still on. He's currently sound asleep, though his peaceful sleep is soon interrupted by the shrill ringing of a phone alarm. Of course, like most of us, the sound of the alarm is as annoying as it gets. He forces himself to pick up the phone and shut the damn thing off. Since he has school to attend, he drags himself out of bed. When he walks into the kitchen, he sees a note from his mom on the fridge, telling him to fend for himself today because she's already off to work. Not long after, he dresses in his school uniform and steps out of his dimly lit apartment. While he's living in this cheap area, he can't help but stare at the luxury skyscraper across from him. Bro seems to envy the kids living up there, while he's stuck in the slums, rotting away in his miserable life. But complaining about life won't ease his struggles. So he starts walking toward his school. The school in question is Seonggun High School. It looks like life at school isn't much easier for him either. There are, of course, the classic bullies who just pick on him for no reason. They're having fun while Minjun's suffering on the floor. Leading the pack is Park Seongbin, 18 years old, second year, class 3. As Seongbin continues to mock our boy, a voice cuts through the air, making Seongbin stop in his tracks. It's some chick, along with her entourage of sidekicks. She's not impressed with Seongbin's childish crap. He is always bullying people who are weaker than him. Not that she likes Minjun either. She finds him just as pathetic. But she also thinks Seongbin's making the school look bad with his dumb antics. Her name is Han Yena, also 18 years old, and she's in class 2, section 3. Seongbin quickly starts acting all buddy-buddy with Minjun, as if they've been best friends forever. To him, Minjun is just the class mascot, so having some fun with him isn't such a big deal. Yena's point still stands. He's causing unnecessary chaos in the hallways, messing up the school's decorum. If Seongbin wants to play around, he can do it outside the school. Seongbin then points out how she is probably the one who hates Minjun the most, but now she's preaching about righteousness. Yena defends herself, reminding him that while she might find Minjun ugly, she doesn't hit him physically, unlike Seongbin. We learn that Yena and Minjun are classmates and have known each other since middle school, just like Minjun knows Seongbin. Moving on, Seongbin invites Yena to tag along because he's meeting some new guy today. But Yena flatly refuses, not forgetting what happened the last time she listened to him. Apparently the last time they hung out, it was at Minjun's semi-basement apartment. It was smelly, messy, and just screamed poor. So, no way she's going there again. The reason this princess has such high standards is that she lives in that high-end apartment complex our boy had been staring at earlier, the same building visible from his place. Her parents are a hospital director and a professional, meaning she was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. She's always posting new pictures on social media and has pretty much everyone in school as her fan. To top it off, she's always acing her classes, dominating not just in looks, but in academics as well. There are rumors that she'll be moving to the US next year to continue her studies. She sounds like the perfect person with literally no setbacks in her life. But she has one huge problem she can't seem to solve. She absolutely hates weak and broke guys. And guess who fits that description? Yep, it's Minjun. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane to understand where this all started. Back in 8th grade, when Minjun and Yena were in the same class, Bro mustered up the courage to talk to her, but she only responded with a tone dripping with disdain and annoyance. To her, he was just a smelly brat who followed her around like a mosquito, and she hated it. Even though their homes were in the same direction, she couldn't stand walking alongside him. She told him to take a different route so she wouldn't have to suffer through his smell. It was then that it became crystal clear to Minjun. This chick loathed him with every fiber of her being. And speaking of smells, he noticed that she always smelled nice. For him, it must be the fragrance of wealth. Under normal circumstances, after being humiliated and shut down, most people would start hating the person who did it. But Minjun's feelings towards her were unwavering. Bro was loyal to a fault. He always sat next to her, even though she constantly mocked and belittled him with her trash talk. Year after year, same school, same class, same one-sided crush. Even with her constant ridicule, he never gave up. At some point, he started to question himself. After all, only a crazy person would love a girl who ridicules them every chance she gets. But this has always been Minjun's life. Getting physically wrecked by Seongbin, emotionally tortured by Yana. Welcome to the life of a certified pathetic loser. Later, Minjun is hanging out with his two friends, and both of his friends are just talking about anime, being the otakus they are. The fat one, in particular, seems obsessed with anime, while the scrawny guy next to him, Bae Soonho, hasn't really been keeping up with the anime scene. Meanwhile, Minjun's just sitting there in silence, like a background NPC minding his own business. Let me introduce these two. The scrawny one is Bae Soonho, 18 years old, and the fat one is Byungjun, is also the same age. Soonho and Byungjun are in different classes than Minjun, but they're the only friends who actually share similar personalities with him. The only difference is that they are not the ones being bullied, unlike Minjun. And Bro is feeling seriously envious of them. The only explanation he can come up with is that they're just lucky, while he's the one who gets all the shit this world has to offer. His train of thought is interrupted when his friends ask if he's interested in going to a Lumina concert. If he's up for it, they'll get extra tickets. The model in the phone looks hot, but Minjun doesn't care about that stuff anymore. If he's being honest, he's lost his last bit of interest in these idols. Of course, his friends think he's missing out. Now that they think about it, they're starting to notice that Minjun's been looking like a walking corpse lately. As they walk out, they can't help but throw some colorful remarks about how Minjun's depressed for no apparent reason. In class, Minjun just wants the day to end so he can escape this miserable life. Then, he overhears Seongbin and his gang talking about some random guy who glared back at them when they tried to mess with him. The guy seemed intimidating, but the guys are sure that Seongbin could have easily drilled him into the ground. Apparently, this guy came all the way from North Korea to South Korea. They're making fun of him for abandoning his parents and running away to save his own skin. As they're talking, the guy they're mocking, Kang Hakchul, shows up right there and overhears them. And of course, he's not about to take their shit. Seongbin's ego gets bruised when Hakchul stares him down like he's nothing, so Seongbin grabs him by the collar. But that Sigma doesn't react to this aggressive move. He simply suggests Seongbin shouldn't speak trash about others without expecting consequences. Seongbin refuses to let go of his grip, but before things escalate into a full-blown mess, his lackeys step in to calm him down. Eventually, Seongbin lets Hakchul go, but not before threatening his life. While this is all going on, Minjun's just sitting in the background, thinking to himself when he'll finally be rid of this hellhole of a school. When school ends, Minjun walks home, his mind swirling with all sorts of thoughts. He's seriously considering quitting school altogether. It feels like his only option to escape this miserable life. He's set on it. No turning back now. That's when Seongbin and his goons cross his path. They're actually happy to see him. Seongbin wants some cigarettes and tells our boy to ask a lady over there to buy them from the convenience store. After all, they're underage and can't buy them themselves. Of course, Minjun knows this is just another way for Seongbin to bully him, and he's had enough. Instead of putting up with it, he just ignores them and keeps walking towards home. Seongbin's pissed that Minjun is ignoring him, so, as expected, he and his goons beat the shit out of Minjun and dump him in an abandoned construction site. Seongbin's holding a brick, which he used to slam into Minjun's head over and over again. They're hoping this beating will teach this shit-ass how to obey. But Minjun's had enough. With his broken and defeated voice, he tells Seongbin to just kill him. He's lost the will to live. Dying seems like the only way out. For some reason, that response really gets under Seongbin's skin. He gets even angrier and hits the guy with a kick again. Before leaving, that bastard makes one final threat. If Minjun ever tries to kill himself and mentions them in his suicide note, he promises to find his mother and unalive her on the spot. With that, they leave Minjun alone in the construction site, broken and battered. Dawn's creeping over the horizon as Minjun makes his way home after all that. The only thought in his mind is that he just wants the world to end by tomorrow. But he knows that's not going to happen. So, his best option is to climb to the top of that luxury high-rise apartment complex he's been staring at and jump. It'll all be over in minutes. With that plan in mind, he starts heading to the complex, ready to end it all. This is when he crosses paths with Yena, the girl who despises him the most. She gets annoyed just by his presence and demands to know why he's wandering around this joint when it's not even his home. Seeing how banged up he is, she's sure he's not here to deliver anything. Instead, he looks like he's here to pull off some burglary. Of course, she ends up reminding him how pathetic he is. Well, this is exactly why he came. To end it all, once and for all. The girl, on the other hand, starts questioning his bruised-up face, wondering if someone beat him up. She's genuinely pissed that he never stands up for himself, and he just always takes the beatings like the damn dog he is. She goes on this whole rant for a while, and eventually, my guy just turns around and walks in the opposite direction of the apartment building. That entitled bitch keeps whining about how he's giving her the cold shoulder. But eventually, she gives up and decides she'll pick this conversation back up tomorrow. Later, Minjun gets back into his smelly and cramped apartment. To blow off some steam, he fires up his PC and throws on his headphones to dive into some video games. Thinking back on everything that just happened, he realizes that she wasn't even wrong. He really does deserve all the shit she gave him. That's also why he's not going back to school. Like never ever. Starting tomorrow, he's planning to get a job and help his mom out with the household expenses. Night rolls in and Minjun is still blasting through enemies in his FPS game, mowing down waves of zombies. Suddenly his friends in the live chat tell him they're done playing and heading off, which makes zero sense to Minjun. After all, it's only 10 p.m., still got a good 2 hours before midnight. That's when his friends remind him about the urgent news regarding the breakout. The world outside is in chaos right now. And right on cue, Minjun hears commotion outside. He gets up and cautiously heads to the front door when someone starts knocking persistently. Before opening it, he checks the peephole. It looks like one of his upstairs neighbors, asking him to open the door with this shaky-ass voice. Hearing that, Minjun just assumes the dude is drunk again. But little does he know, that man isn't his drunk neighbor anymore. He makes the mistake of opening the gate. First thing he notices is blood all over the guy's body, with a massive wound torn across his belly. Even then, Minjun thinks the guy must have gotten seriously hurt and considers calling emergency services. But then the zombified man lets out this ungodly screech before lunging at Minjun. They both crash down, the zombie dude on top of him. Minjun finally kicks him off after realizing the guy's completely out of his mind. He scrambles back and locks the door. His heart's racing, breathing heavy, with his legs trembling like crazy. There's no way that Psycho was just his regular neighbor. He grabs his phone to call the cops, but nothing connects. That's when he notices all the emergency alerts on his screen. They're saying unknown attacks are happening in Seoul and other unspecified areas. Everyone's being told to stay inside for safety. Then he hears chaos outside, just beyond his basement apartment. He opens the window just enough to peek through. What he sees is straight up hell. People are literally tearing each other apart. He even sees his neighbor again, still out there, roaming the streets and causing mayhem. That's when he suddenly gets worried about his mom and tries calling her. But there seems to be no connection. The night deepens, and Minjun turns off the apartment lights and curls up in a corner under his blanket. He tries to connect to any network, but nothing happens. No signal, no updates. He turns on the TV to get some answers on this messed up situation. The news anchor talks about a string of brutal murders being committed by unidentified civilians across the country. The government is calling it an act of indiscriminate terrorism and says they're investigating the cause and whoever's responsible for it. But no real details are out yet. The anchor urges everyone to stay indoors. Lock the doors and lock the windows. Avoid all contact with the outside world. The next update comes out as well, which reveals that Busan has fallen too. Similar violent incidents are being reported not just in Seoul, Busan, and Incheon, but in smaller towns too. Police and military forces are being deployed, but the situation already seems out of control. Minjun feels completely hopeless, getting hit with bomb after bomb of terrifying news. He's so stunned that it feels like he must be dreaming, like some sick nightmare he can't wake up from. Because based on what he just heard, it sounds like the world has fallen to zombies. But that stuff only happens in games and movies, and it's too ridiculous to be real. And yet, everything he's seen so far all checks out. He wants answers, and sitting cooped up in this dimly lit apartment isn't going to get him anywhere. He decides to step outside in order to shut the building's front door as tightly as he can behind him. But before he opens it, he sneaks a look through the peephole, making sure there aren't any zombies lurking. With the coast clear, he cracks open the door and steps out. As he climbs the stairs to the ground floor, it's eerily quiet. When he reaches the building's main door, he peeks out and spots a zombie roaming the street. He shuts the door right away and locks every single bolt. His next mission is to check if there are any survivors upstairs. But with how dead silent everything is, it doesn't seem like anyone's up there. For now, he decides it's not worth the risk. He'll wait it out until morning. He's convinced the police or military will eventually show up and rescue them. He fires the TV back up, hoping for updates. But before anything meaningful comes on, the broadcast dies. With no choice, he lies down to try and get some sleep. But with all this shit going on, he can't seem to fall asleep. More than anything, there's this unsettling feeling crawling inside him. Just yesterday, he wanted to end his life because the world was so damn cruel. He even wished the whole world would just burn. And now, it feels like that wish came true. But that doesn't mean his life got any easier. In fact, now he's struggling just to stay alive. He does not even have to think too hard to realize that nothing has changed. It was hell before, and it's hell now. So all these zombies and this end of the world stuff doesn't scare him. Because honestly, he's already as miserable as a person can get. The morning comes. The streets are littered and blocked with abandoned cars, and zombies are roaming everywhere. Minjun finally opens the main door and dares to peek outside. The air feels wrong. There's this thick metallic scent of blood hanging over everything. It's so overpowering that he slams the door shut and locks it all back up. Going out without any preparation would be straight up suicide. He heads into the kitchen, and luckily, he's stocked decently. There are 4 packs of ramen, 6 cup noodles, and some instant rice and uncooked rice too. Enough food to keep him from starving for about 2 weeks. He's got 3 bottles of water, and thankfully, the tap still works. Even the gas is running for now. If he manages his supplies right, he could probably last a month here, and that should be enough time for someone to find him. Perhaps a rescue squad might help him to get out eventually. For now, his main concern is his mother. Since he can't connect to the network, he has no way of verifying what happened to her. Right now, all he can do is hope that his mother is alive and well. He then suddenly recalls how there are 5 households living in this building. In one of them, there was a college guy who lived in the rooftop room. He remembers how that guy was a true playboy, bringing his girlfriend every Tuesday to have their little fun. Since yesterday was Tuesday, that means the couple must be stuck up there. Minjun musters up his courage and finally starts ascending to the floors above him. Along the way, he checks every apartment on each floor, but there doesn't seem to be anyone there. The only apartment left is that rooftop room. As he ascends, he hopes to find the couple alive and well. Oddly enough, the rooftop door is open. Once he reaches the roof, he notices that the room the college guy lived in is also open. So naturally, he walks inside. But what he sees there is something he wishes he hadn't seen. On the other side of the room, the girl is dead already, while that college guy has turned into one of the flesh-craving zombies. But thankfully, Minjun's eyes do not land over the body since it's over his blind spot. The only thing he sees in front of him is shit ton of blood, which is enough to make his feet falter. He quickly ditches his plan of exploring the apartment further, and when he quietly tries to retreat, he accidentally knocks over the plant pot, grabbing the zombie's attention. Hearing those snarly growling noises inside, Minjun starts dashing with the speed of a cheetah, but his clumsy steps cause him to trip. The zombie guy comes out of his room and pounces on our boy right away. Minjun cleverly uses the zombie's momentum against him. He simply ducks down, lets the zombie go over his head, and pushes the bastard, making him fall off the roof. The sight is enough to steal his breath away for a moment. He just falls to his knees with barely any strength in them. Without any further ado, he runs back down after locking the door behind him, then locks himself into his apartment. He still hasn't gotten over that life and death encounter with that monster. He still can't come to terms with the fact that the rooftop college guy, whom he had seen as his hope, is now one of the brainless undead. And what's more devastating to him is the fact that he literally pushed him down from the top floor, leading him to his death. But then again, he tries to convince himself that it wasn't his fault. What he did was just self-defense. It was the college guy who attacked him first. Another night arrives, and just like the last one, Minjun is forced to spend his time in this dark inner basement apartment. Minjun just sits there quietly, the guilt of the college guy's death eating him from the inside out. He stands back up and heads outside to the streets, hoping to see that college guy again. In front of him is a zombie. When the zombie twirls around to face him, he notices the broken neck of the college guy hanging from its right shoulder. Seeing this, Minjun feels both relieved and scared. He's relieved that his senior is alive, but the part that makes him fearful is the fact that this boy in front of him is no longer human. He internally apologizes to his senior and shuts the door behind him. This encounter teaches him that these guys are nothing more than zombies now. The next day arrives, making it the 3rd day since the apocalypse took place. He's prepared a dish in the hot pot by himself. Actually, he's trying to use up the food that requires extra cooking. He intends to rely on it as long as the gas lasts, so afterwards he can use the packaged food. There is one lingering thought stuck in his mind, which is that he shouldn't be wasting his time waiting for help to arrive. If the food runs out before that happens, he will be doomed. For once, he's relieved that the entire building right now is devoid of zombies. It was only that rooftop college guy, but he's already out of the building now. To attract the attention of rescue teams or any survivors, he thinks of lighting a fire on the rooftop. Furthermore, he's thinking of leaving this apartment building soon. He had already given up on his life a few days ago, so even if he dies outside, it doesn't matter anymore. Not to mention, he's survived 2 life-or-death encounters already, which only gave him the confidence to fight against these monsters if push comes to shove. Those zombie-like people don't scare him anymore. Suddenly, his phone begins to ring miraculously. It's actually his mother calling, so he doesn't waste a single second before answering. His concerned mother quickly asks about his well-being. He promptly assures her that he's staying inside his house alone for now and questions her about her whereabouts. She reveals that she met the military while evacuating the day before yesterday and is currently at the shelter in Seongnam. She reassures him not to worry about her and suggests he stay inside his home. She promises to request the rescue team to get him out of there. With just a little exchange, their communication ends with the phone losing signal again. Regardless, Minjun is glad to hear his mother's voice, which is a clear sign that she's alive. Out of the blue, he starts receiving messages. It's actually his 2 otaku friends. And since they're able to send text messages, That means they're still alive in their cribs. Seems like these guys are just too comfortable wherever they are, or else they wouldn't be cracking jokes in the middle of this mess. His two friends live closer to each other, so Minjun is sure they've helped each other in this predicament. Including his two boys, he's only been able to confirm his mother's survival. There's still one person left he wants to figure out if they're still alive. And that's of course Han Yena, that lady who always trash-talked him. Of all the people he knows, she lives the closest to his house. But Minjun's not sure if she'll ever come back to his place, given how much she disliked his place the last time she visited. We flash back to the past when Songbin is having fun, along with his lackeys in Minjun's crib. One of the guys has invited Yena over, and they joke about how she wasn't told that the place she's about to visit is Minjun's house, someone she despises the most. They're all joking around while Minjun is losing his mind, hearing that she's coming. Finally, she arrives, and when she sees this cramped place that looks like trash, she just stares at it. Literally, she's having second thoughts about crossing that boundary line and dragging her feet into this dirty and cheap place. Eventually, she decides to leave without even taking a single step inside. She finds the smell of cigarettes disgusting, the floor all sticky and musty. Furthermore, she's annoyed they didn't even bother telling her that the place she's visiting is Minjun's house. Poor Minjun was left in utter disbelief, seeing how disgusted she made him feel. At that time, what made him feel miserable wasn't having Park Songbin and his crew invading his house, but Han Yena's disgusted reaction upon seeing his place. In the present, as he sits on his toilet seat, he's really curious to find out if she's alive or not. But even if she has turned into a zombie, Minjun isn't that heartbroken. You see, Minjun's father is the hospital director, so he's banking on the idea that his father might know which virus caused this outbreak, making him one of the potential candidates to figure out the cure for this disease. But then again, he shouldn't be worrying more about her survival than his own. After all, being the rich brat she is, she might have already made it out alive. But then, a familiar voice calls out to him. He suddenly starts to feel a little troubled upon hearing the voice. The voice on the other side of the door continues to request him to open the door. He finally recognizes the voice. It's actually Han Yena outside of his apartment. Through the window, she's trying to call him out, making sure she's not being loud. Still, her voice finally exposes her to the zombies who start to rush towards her. Seeing those bastards rushing at her, she gets even more desperate and begins yelling at him to open the door. Finally, Minjun opens the door, takes her inside, and locks it back up. The woman is so terrified that she's literally sweating. No matter how big a breath she takes, it's still not enough to calm her down. The worried Minjun checks on the girl, asking if she's okay. But he's even more confused why she ended up here of all places. Without really explaining anything, she tugged his shirt and embraced him in sudden surprise, causing a baffling reaction from our boy. The dude is literally too stunned to speak as she keeps on pulling his shirt, before mustering the courage to ask what happened to her. Minjun inquires if she's alright. Yena pulls away before thanking him in full. It's the kindest she's been to him, and she even admits that without his help, she would have been zombie meat by now. Her unexpected words of gratitude really stun our boy here, causing a flustered reaction as he admits that he's happy seeing her safe and sound. Scouting her surroundings, Yena realizes that Minjun's the only one in his home. Our boy explains that his mom went out and hasn't returned for 3 days. But luckily he was able to get in touch with her and she seems to be doing alright. After all, she was evacuated by a military unit, so things couldn't go wrong for her. Hearing that, Yena is glad. Since they're talking about parents, he's curious what ended up becoming of Yena's family. The girl confesses that at least her father is doing alright hiding in a safe place. As for her mother, Yena shows a concerned side but immediately pulls back and states that her parents are doing well. She switches topics and asks for water. After all, she hasn't had any for a few days now. She also asks for a charger to get her phone back on track. Time swiftly passes by, but then we're introduced to a whole new problem. This girl is a water-devouring demon. She's exhausting Bro's entire rationing strategy with the way she's drinking water. Minjun is seriously concerned, because if the water supply ends up getting cut off, they're going to be doomed for life. At the same time, he understands her perspective. The girl just escaped a zombie raid just to get here. Minjun decides to ask if she came here directly from her home, because it doesn't make sense to end up hiding in his place. Yena actually reveals that she's been surviving on her own outside for days. The girl never even got the chance to get home, which comes as a shock to Minjun. She starts off by recalling the conversation they had 3 days ago. After that, she went outside to kill some time, and that's when hell broke loose. People were terrified, running away, panicking. Not knowing what was best for her, she also ran and ended up hiding in a stairwell nearby. After a long waiting period of hoping that someone would come out and rescuing her, no one came. Minjun is astonished that Yena stayed outside defenseless by herself for 3 full days. Luckily for her, there was an unlocked door by the stairwell. A small meeting room became her saving grace, but it couldn't offer her much. The most she could have was a water jug. and that's how she kept herself alive for the time she was there. But when it came to the third day, Yena was fully exhausted and couldn't keep on. She had to find food and water for her own good, so she stepped outside, hoping to catch up to home and run into the police if she's lucky. Or so she thought. Because the only people she met were undead monsters chewing each other's flesh and mercilessly killing people. It was a horrifying reality, and her path to home was blocked. So she tried another way, sneaking in using the alleyway to get to her neighborhood, realizing that she'd been passing by Minjun's neighborhood as well. Unfortunately, even after using the alleyway, she found another path obstructed by zombies. There was no way she could pass through undetected, but she still mustered the courage to take the route. While running, she recalled that Minjun's place was nearby, and she vaguely remembered the location thanks to her previous visit. She was desperate for Minjun to be alive, since he safely went home 3 days ago. Not knowing what to call them, she skillfully evaded the undead until she was finally close to Minjun's place. And that's how she got here. Minjun is terribly surprised that she had the balls to go outside and make such bold decisions. But she's indebted to him, glad to find out that he was home, or else she was gone for life. Yena gets up, exclaiming that she's feeling dirty and wants to take a shower if the water's all right. Catching a peek of her sweaty armpits, Minjun unintentionally becomes a creep by offering her a new set of clothes to wear. But Yena takes this offer the wrong way and starts kicking the crap out of him for making such an inappropriate suggestion. Poor guy gets repeatedly called a loser while getting kicked, and he doesn't even know what he did wrong. Yena's tired and really wants to take a shower, but at least she's polite enough to ask him. Minjun stumbles over his words and allows her permission to help herself. He still doesn't know why he suffered her wrathful kicks just now. While she's busy showering, Minjun enters a state of contemplation. Before her arrival, he was planning to go outside and venture on his own. But now that she's stuck with him, he feels guilty for leaving her on her own and prioritizing his own needs. At the same time, if they stayed here, they wouldn't have infinite resources. The food he stashed is only enough for one person for a month. Their resources are automatically cut in half now. The situation is really grim and forces him to be desperate. But also Bro is starstruck that the Han Yena of the high class is actually willingly taking a shower at his place. It's just as ridiculous as the apocalypse. Recalling their previous interactions at their school, he remembered how she was so cold that she didn't even bother making eye contact with the guy. He was merely an insect and an eyesore to her. Minjun is startled when she requests a set of clothes from him, as she's been wearing the same outfit for 3 days. Hurtling to fulfill her request, the dude goes around looking for clothes, asking what kind of clothes she'd like to wear. Yena doesn't really care about maintaining her fashion sense in the middle of a damn apocalypse, so she's fine with whatever. Also, she casually calls him a short king in the middle of this. Bro is catching strays for no reason. As Minjun is lending his clothes, he's a bit embarrassed. Yena immediately finds the smell disgusting and requests something else to wear. But unfortunately, all of his clothes smell the same, so it won't make a difference. Having worn her new outfit, Yena is extremely put off by the noticeable, unbearable smell. But she's hoping to deal with the suffering until her clothes dry off. She advises him to spray them properly, and thinks that the rumors about men being unhygienic are true when they're living on their own. It doesn't help that she's sensitive to smells. The girl laughs it off, considering the gravity of the situation they're in. Minjun doesn't know what to make of her reaction, and thinks she must have lost it if she's caring about smells in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Outside, the zombies are grunting and wreaking havoc. But inside, Minjun and Yena have just finished eating. She wants to know his thoughts about their plan, and thinks that someone will come to rescue them if they wait long enough. Minjun reveals that his own plan before her arrival was to move to a different location from tomorrow. This idea comes as ridiculous to Yena, who thinks it's stupid to abandon food and water when they've got plenty of it at his place. She's frightened because she nearly died on the way here, so she doesn't want to risk her life again by stepping outside. Minjun clarifies that he's not thinking about doing something like that now that they're sticking together. He also thinks they should take Yena's approach and wait for someone to rescue them in the meantime. But then, Yena is terrified to admit that they run the risk of running out of resources. Honestly, I don't even get her at this point. Does she want our boy to go outside on his own? Yena is confused and clearly not making sense, while Minjun explains that they could easily break into the houses of the upper floors and collect their resources to further increase their chances of survival. However, there's a chance they'll run into the infected zombies, since he knows that only the rooftop is safe from harm. And if that does end up happening, if they run out of food, there would be no other logical choice but to step outside. Yena is horrified and strongly rejects the idea, even though Minjun tries his best to explain that it's necessary for them to go in a situation like that. For now, she doesn't want to think about any dark possible futures like that. She also thinks he's only advocating going outside because he hasn't seen what the world looks like now. The zombies are rampant and they're mowing down any human nearby. Minjun argues that her getting to this neighborhood is an impressive accomplishment already, and if she traveled a kilometer full of zombies, then maybe their chances aren't so bad. Yena is shocked to see him actually come forward with his words, instead of being frightened to his core. Minjun counters that at the end of the day, they're facing zombies, and he's personally confirmed that a single bite can turn anyone into one. However, he doesn't really care much about his life, so he doesn't have that kind of fear if things go south. In his life, nothing would change even if he died. What a sad confession. Instead of comforting or consoling him, Yena isolates him and tells him that he's only thinking about his side of things. She doesn't want to become a zombie and wants to complete her education abroad, which is a hilarious confession because who's going to be teaching her? Professor Undead Walker? Minjun recalls that Yena impressively survived thanks to avoiding contact with the zombies. So maybe that's what they need to focus on. Even more, he adds that not all zombies have the ability to sprint in their direction. Some of them are grievously injured and walk slowly, while others can't even do that and just seem totally immobile. Also, even with their running speed considered, it's slower than a regular person. And that means they've got an excellent chance of at least outrunning the zombies. To give her an example, Minjun brings up the game of tag. He thinks it is easy to think of it like they were playing the game, and it may add to the excitement factor instead of fear. Yena looks at him with the most dead eyes, unable to believe that this man is casually suggesting a zombie apocalypse, a giant game of tag. They stop messing around with Yena confessing that she's done for the day and wants to sleep. She's been sleepless for days after all. Minjun decides to find them a bunch of blankets and casually sets up their beds together. Yena is suspicious of his scheme and orders him to sleep near the bathroom. Bro is not having it. He reminds her that it's his place and he doesn't want to sleep near the bathroom door. Seeing as she can't fight back, Yena agrees and realizes she's in a stranger's home. She agrees to sleep near that spot instead. Her words get even more ridiculous as she casually remarks she's going to sleep outside on the stairwell. Minjun is having issues understanding her and tries to lure her back in, but Yena reminds him that it's his place, so he gets to sleep comfortably. Minjun emphasizes that he doesn't want her to go outside. Yena laughs and finds it hilarious that he took the bait from a single joke. She's okay with sleeping in the kitchen. They go on back and forth and eventually our boy loses the petty argument and ends up sleeping near the bathroom door anyway. He's still grateful to be under a safe shelter because that matters the most of all. And though he appreciates Yena's presence, he also thinks she yaps a lot, which is funny. The night continues with zombies grumbling outside. Yena's too distraught and can't seem to sleep. She randomly calls him out, alarming him to get up. To his shock, Yena personally requests that he come sleep in her room because she's afraid of being alone by herself. I genuinely like this soft scene, showing the characters vulnerable even against their personalities. And well, that's what happens.